we're excited to be leading on some certain things in that lane. So that's probably the biggest exciting thing I'm working on, the future of how this works. And, with our model and what we're creating, I think we're creating the model for all public companies going forward. And it's not easy. We're working very hard on that. You need great legal, great accounting, great compliance. And it's first movers are never, it's never an easy task, but, we understand the challenge and excited to be there.
Welcome back to another installment of the Next Gen Case Study Series. On today's episode, I have with me Brian J Esposito, who is the founder and CEO of Esposito Intellectual Enterprises, a dynamic holding company with active investments and partnerships spanning over 25 industries. And he is also the CEO of Diamond Lake Minerals, Inc., ticker symbol DLMI. Brian is recognized globally as a top CEO and a forward-thinking leader driving innovation in digital assets, security tokens, and diversified investments, which is why we're excited to have him on the show. Brian, welcome to the program.
Hey, Devin, great to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm really excited to get into some of the stuff that you're up to here. I've had you on another one of my podcasts, and we've had a really incredible conversation. I might link to that in the show notes just so somebody can get access to the longer form conversation that we had the first time around. For this conversation, I'd love to start with just for the viewers' sake, a quick little background on who you are, where you came from, and how you kind of found yourself founding and being the CEO of Esposito Intellectual Enterprises.
Yeah, it's 23, 24 plus years as an entrepreneur, just always building, seeing opportunities, being part of companies. Started in the late 90s in the beauty industry where I taught myself to code. I built the first e-commerce platform for beauty and personal care products for professional stylists, estheticians, as well as the retail consumer. From there, I became Amazon's first beauty luxe retailer. It was Jet.com's first retailer. So through all those processes, I got fallen even more in love with technology and learning to adapt or die when you're looking at businesses or industries that I'm presently involved in. And I also got to work with some of the biggest entertainers, celebrities, actors, actresses in developing and distributing their beauty or personal care brands. So having a big audience, working with really credible, talented people, and then introducing these new technology advancements that we were either licensing or ultimately I wanted to create and own and have that part of my business model. So, my entire life has been go out and work, go out and find opportunities, and create win-win situations for everybody that's involved. That's why I really love collaborations and partnerships.
So you've been involved in a number of different enterprises, a number of different industries. I remember the first time around, we had a really difficult time kind of pegging down what your specialty was, and we
Yep.
landed on serial entrepreneur. So you've had the privilege or the advantage of being able to see the battle from all fronts, from young, small, scrappy startup all the way to nine-figure enterprises. And so I'm really curious to get your perspective on what that journey is like, kind of going from 0 to 100, and what your angle is when you approach making an investment or making a decision into a business.
Yeah, so I'm wired a little bit differently because I've been through so much. So I have a good idea of who I want to work with, or more importantly, who I don't want to work with. So I always have to align on the CEO or management's certain personalities that have to align with mine, or characteristics such as having good empathy, or having empathy at all is hard to find in today's world. Really good business ethics and strong morals and character. If those are aligned, I know I can really do anything with that company or those leadership. But if I find a leader is just wants to go out and make a bunch of money and have a lot of nice things, I wish them the best. That doesn't align with me, because from my history, if that's your MO, you'll do anything to make money. You'll do anything to maintain your level of your lifestyle, which means you may put me in harm's way. So I want to get that off the table right off the bat. So from there, there's all different levels of companies that I love to get involved with. There's ones that are just on a great upswing and growing, and they want more access to markets, and I can create value and add to their machine, which is great. But I really love the ones that I know have value but are lost, they're fragmented, their team is dwindling down, but there's great IP, there's a great product, there's a great service or solution. They just don't know the right people. And I know that firsthand, that the world is really who you know. I used to hate saying that. I used to disagree with it, but it's the reality. So, I always say to entrepreneurs, go out and keep meeting people and build relationships, nurture relationships, because you never know who's going to open the door for you, who can change your life overnight. So I love those companies because when you drop it into what I've built in my world, you can really create instant value or create new life into that company. And when you see that happening to a founder that has all their credit cards maxed out or their second mortgage on their home, and you can actually see them feel good again, that's the best feeling in the world. That's like a drug to me. So if I can, that's why I love rinsing and repeating that, when I can take my journey and my crap that I went through and I can come in and help somebody because I needed help, but I couldn't find it. I had to figure it out. Uh, Not many people are wired like me because I've been through so many life's lessons and hurdles, and most people would have just given up. Most people would have filed for bankruptcy. Like that's not me. There's always a solution. So for me, what helps justify my journey is taking what I've learned and helping companies navigate how hard it is to be, A, relevant, B, have a business, and then C, be successful. That's very difficult, very difficult. So I enjoy helping companies navigate through that and find ways to create a sustainable business.
I love that the first part of that was qualifying people on some more of the intrinsic characteristics that somebody has as a result of their learned experience growing up. For example, empathy, having strong moral and uh, a strong moral compass and a decent character, and for reasons that you kind of pointed out, which is to first of all make sure that the partnership isn't going to collapse in on itself when things get tough, because they do. And to have somebody that's on your team turn their back on you or make a decision that could affect you negatively is detrimental, not just in the personal front, but also in the pocketbook in your
Yep.
portfolio. And so it makes a big difference to align yourself with people who are in the same lane as you in terms of just where they're headed and why. The other thing that you mentioned though is the learned skills, the things um, that you can pick up along the way that maybe you just don't know that you're missing, or resources, being connected to the people. So what other skills are you looking for when you partner with somebody outside of that kind of the
The
ethical and
traits.
moral character? Yeah, the intrinsic values.
Within reason, because I think balance in life is important, but not if you're an entrepreneur. That's not the deal. That's not the reality. I need to see you working. I need to see you have drive, and you may feel defeated. You may feel no more gas in the tank, or you're hopeless and helpless. I get all those, but as long as you're getting up in the morning and you're going out there and you're trying, I need to see that. Even if you're trying the wrong things or you're doing it incorrectly, I don't care about that. I just need to see you actually working, and I need to also hear and feel you not blaming others. Is
Mm,
you can't blame anything that's happening in your life. We don't live in a dictatorship here. Let's just talk about U.S. citizens. We have so many opportunities to find ways to earn and create success. And hell, my story, again, people have it worse, people have it better, but I went through awful challenges, lost everything, was in the hole millions, didn't file for bankruptcy, and I came back from that. So if I can do it, then I don't want to hear that you can't do it. So to me, that's very important. Just to feel some sort of drive. You're determined. You're ethical. We don't have to talk about that because we talked about it earlier. But that it's a formula. That all that comes together in this perfect recipe that you have the foundations. I think unfortunately, things like COVID had reset people's work behavior and needing to work from home or work remotely. That causes so much damages to what I believe we're accustomed to on how to go out and earn and go out and work and go out and create opportunities when you feel like you can be compensated to stay home and do nothing. You know, that was a long time that people felt that way. And I shouldn't say nothing, but reality is productivity of major companies fell 30, 40, 50, up to 70% in some companies because they weren't in an office, they weren't working together, they weren't used to that collaboration. So
mm,
you have to come back from that. there's generational traits that are much different. Like it's very difficult for me to find someone my age or less that has the work ethic that I grew up in. So, you need to have work ethic. You need to go out there and earn. You need to go out there and create opportunities, and you need to not blame others or other situations that may be the result of you not being where you want to be in life.
This work ethic one is such a hard one to touch on because I'll tell you, when I was growing up as a millennial, elder millennial, I'm proud to say, they told me that I didn't have any work ethic, and my entire generation. But I grew up on a farm. I had to wake up at 6 o'clock every morning to make sure that the horses and the animals were all taken care of, and then I had to pack myself onto a bus and go to school. And in a rural area, that's not an easy feat to take care of either. You're a 45 minute to an hour bus ride away from your school, and so like there's just a lot of elements that were involved in kind of teaching me the skills that I needed to stay committed to something in spite of
Mm.
the fact that I didn't like it or I didn't want to do it. And I think my parents did a good job of connecting me to a higher purpose, like a bigger reason than myself to achieve some
Yep.
sort of outcome. And so I make that point because I want to get your perspective on where do you think work ethic comes from, and at what point does that kick in? Because I understand that there's this level of entitlement at
Yeah.
that happens, I think, and that's just a byproduct of youthfulness. If I'm being totally honest, I have a son now. I'm watching this all play out in real time,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'm starting to get a different perspective. But Brian, what do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think historically, parents want, which I think does a disservice to some kids. They don't want their kids to go through the hardships that they went through, so they try to protect them from some of that.
Right.
And I don't know. I've met people that come from insanely entrepreneurial households, so I'm not going to say it's DNA. And then some of those children are the laziest, worthless people I've ever met in my life. So I can't say it's DNA. I think we all have a. I don't know. I like to think you need to have a purpose in this life,
Hmm.
and you should want to leave a mark on this life. And it doesn't have to be money in the bank, but that's a byproduct of going after and leaving your mark and creating something. So a lot of us have that drive, and it's not explainable. I come from a father that worked his ass off and created a really nice resources for our family. I don't look at any of that. Even when I went through hell, like I wasn't going to them to help bail me out. I
Hmm.
want to make my own way. I want to make my own journey and my own mark. I'm not even thinking about there. And when I hear people talk about inheritances, and I'm like, gee, what are you kidding me? Go out and earn. Like you're sitting here waiting for your parents to die so you can get an inheritance. Like that's a very common topic that I hear so often and often. Like that's crazy to me. And also I have the mindset if you're not replenishing what's there and you're just spending it, it disappears. Or if those resources are investments that may be sound or not, even if they're very sound, we all went through '08. The best investments at that time that were AAA rated disappeared.
Hmm.
So you have to go out there and constantly earn. And if you spend like a drunken sailor, then you really have to go out there and earn. So for me, and the people that I've met people that are 80 that are wired like me, and I met a handful of people that are 15 that are wired like me. I don't think there's a rhyme or reason to it. Some people may think I'm crazy. I do believe in this old soul thing. There's things that I have inherently that I just believe and feel. There's things that I know that I have no reason of knowing, but I have such conviction about. Like I feel like I've been around a couple of times, and the more seasoned you are on your life's journey, I think you just start to become a little bit more aware and enlightened or elevated as to what's important and what's not important and where you should be spending your time and where you shouldn't be spending your time.
Uh, you're pointing at accomplishment as something that should be valued, where I think accomplishment has kind of been brushed aside for preservation of emotional reaction to loss or failure. And I'm kind of sort of hinting at this whole everybody gets a medal thing that
Yeah.
I'm not sure where it came from, but I know that we very quickly learned that the people that are getting the medal that know they didn't work for it, they don't value it, and therefore it doesn't achieve the same outcome other than creating a different belief, a belief that's not serving that person in them, that hey, it doesn't matter, I don't have to do anything, I don't have to try, all I got to do is show up and I'm just going to be rewarded. And so that echoes forward into their the decisions that they make when they're in the workforce, whether that's
Yeah.
working for a company or working for themselves. So I mean, I'm a huge subscriber to this idea that we value what we work for, but what's your take on that?
I just want to make sure I'm following the question correctly. Like, I think everybody should be acknowledged and seen for their accomplishments and their efforts, but there has to be some substance behind it. So if that's where you're going with this, like, I get maybe why there is this transition, mostly public schools, where everybody needs to feel valued because maybe it'll help with self-esteem issues, or maybe it help offset some maybe earlier stages of mental illnesses or poor mental health because they never got a trophy or they're always last. Or
Right.
but how I grew up, I lost whatever a game. I played baseball, so if we lost, I worked 10 hours the next day out hitting ground balls off a wall to myself and fielding them, or going to the batting cages. So the next time that I had a chance to be at bat or get a ball hit to me, I would get it and throw the guy out, or I would hit a base hit or add value to the team. But if you don't have that slap in the face moment, I don't think you're going to go out there and work harder and better yourself, because what's the benefit, right? What's the benefit if everybody's a winner? Well, I don't know. Maybe it's a short-term great moment. You all go for a slice of pizza, but it better be gluten-free pizza because 90% of the kids have gluten allergies. Like, everything is completely different from how I grew up. But if that's the workforce that you need, and that's the workforce that you're trying to create a new potential culture with, you have to bend to their expectations and how they were raised and grew up, because it's not their fault that that's the environment that they grew up in. But you also need to apply it to the real world. Doesn't work like that. If you don't get a contract, you can't go to the bank and say, well, in seventh grade, I got a trophy when I didn't win. Why can't I still get the money in my bank even though I didn't get the contract? But
Right.
there's a disconnect there. So people have to learn that, yes, you were a child. We implemented, I say we, I wasn't involved in the vote, but we implemented these rewarding structures to people to make everybody feel included and to feel good about themselves. But in the real world, it just doesn't work like that. So
Mhm.
people have to understand that was then, this is now. Don't carry that over into paying your bills or trying to get things to happen that aren't happening, because that's not reality.
You know, you mentioned before the that balance, work-life balance or whatever, and how it's just it's kind of a myth. And I have this belief that balance is a marketing message for the mediocre machine. If you want to imagine rolling 10 dodgeballs up a mountain, it's going to be very difficult. I mean, it's not going to be impossible, but the whole time you're going to be stressing and running back and forth and
Yep.
constantly up to something, but never really feeling like any progress is being made. Whereas if you were to take some dedicated time, and I get how difficult this is, right? Especially if you already have a family, you have to get your wife, you have to get your kids enrolled in this idea of, hey, look, dad's got stuff to do, and if you can support me for the next 3 to 5 years, I'm going to build something that's going to
Yep.
allow us to have the freedom and flexibility that we want as a lifestyle. And if everybody can get on board with that, then that's cool. But if they can't, here's where you have to now start juggling all of those things. So you got to manage the wife, and you got to manage the family, and you manage the kids, and then to boot, you got your your friends and colleagues and all the other people that kind of demand of your time. And so you can see how very quickly this becomes overwhelming. So
Mhm.
what advice do you have for somebody that's kind of in that stage of their life that is they are being told constantly, hey, you got to find work-life balance. It's not all about this, or it's not all about like, what do you tell those
Yeah.
people?
There's no perfect model. There
Hmm.
has to be a sacrifice. And then at certain aspects of your career, there's going to be different shifts in those sacrifices. Now, is it a shame that most people can't wait till they're 65 and can collect Social Security and retire? By that point, maybe they're not even alive anymore, or they have health issues and they can't enjoy the last 50 years of their work and they can't travel. So you have a lens into the future of, do you want to be that? And the other lens you can look at is, how much do you really need? right? Because if you're working your ass off to maintain a lifestyle that is really irrelevant, you're just trying to, you're connecting success with a nicer car, you're connecting success with a nicer watch, a nicer home. Like, if you continuously are supporting that and trying to chase that, then you're gonna keep pushing that 5 year mark, Devin, that you told your family. Well, give me another 5 years because the business needs to do this, and we're gonna get a summer home, or you guys want a boat, or all of a sudden a little Devin now wants to go to Yale, and college tuitions by that point is $75 million to go to school. Like, everything changes, everything evolves. The cost of living is ridiculous right now. It is impossible to even get through the day like you were used to. People have to make decisions if they want eggs or milk now because they just don't have, they have a fixed budget. They can't even afford certain things. So it all depends on your lifestyle and what the hell you're chasing. So if you can have a nice, simple life, have a home with some food in the refrigerator and your utilities paid and a decent car in a driveway, and you got your health, well, then you should be extremely happy. And if you have that and it's manageable, then you should be able to be off from Friday to Sunday, depending on what you do for your life, and spend time with your family. But if you want a bigger house, you want nicer things, then you're going to be working your ass off and you're going to be chasing things, and you're going to kill yourself by doing that. You're going to actually kill yourself, or you're going to feel deflated. You're not going to feel at all, you don't feel any sense of achievement because you're constantly comparing yourself, or you're trying to have things that you don't even need. It's this unfortunate mental abuse that most people go through just by turning on their Instagram in the morning.
I read, I think it was in Jordan Peterson's book, The 12 Rules of Life, that in this specific case, it's important for you to have radical honesty, to be so completely honest with yourself and accept what it is that you are after for yourself and for your family or for the people that matter for you, and then aligning yourself with those goals and expectations. That's another one, mind hacking happiness. If you're not happy like 90% of the time, you should read this book. It's a life changer for anybody that's struggling with that kind of balance on perspective. But this idea that if you are radically honest with yourself and really truly say, listen, I get that everybody wants to have that mansion and the Lamborghini and all that. But I don't really want that. I'm not really after that. I just want to spend my time doing something that is bearable, where I know I am in service of others, and then I want to be clock out and just go on about my day and live my life as I see fit in this quiet, peaceful, whatever. And if that's what you want, that's totally fine. There's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that at all. But make sure that your expectations align with that, and the actions that you're taking align with that as well. Because ultimately, the what you believe to be true will influence the decisions that you make, will influence the actions that you take, will influence the results that you get.
I
Does that
agree.
make sense?
Yeah, and you also have to have a come to Jesus, or come to whoever you believe in moment with, who are you picking as your life partner? Because
Mm,
you both need to be aligned with that. Now, you may love someone to hell and back, but if they're gonna bleed you dry and they're a bottomless pit, well, then you're gonna have, maybe you need to be heartbroken for a couple of days, and find someone that's really in line with this. If you want a simple life, and I use the word simple as a glorious heavenly life, because if you can get a simple, peaceful life, then you're solid. You made it.
mm,
Um, but a life partner can also be a great motivator to help you come out of maybe a shell, or to push you to go and do things that you're afraid of. So you really need to choose wisely, because I did reference, I believe, in Old Souls, but I don't remember any of the past lives. I get glimpses of things that I believe that were familiar to me. But if you
mm,
get one, we all know we have one moment or one life in this form. So use it wisely. That's why my company motto has been "Time is our most precious commodity." It is. You can't get any of that back. The learning lessons are amazing. The life lessons that we go through, the experiences are amazing. But if you're not happy, or you feel like you're missing something, or you're trying to fill a void, then you got to look at, what are your actions, what are you repeating that needs to stop, and who do you surround yourself with? Like, your inner circle of family, friends, and loved ones, they're crucial to your life, because you want their respect, you want their admiration, you want them in your life. So if they're a big part of your life and they're not giving you joy or love or happiness, then you need to maybe put them in a timeout for a minute and find out, what do you really need, and what do you really need from people, and are the right people are surrounding you. Like, there's a lot of there's a lot of control we have over our life with that aspect, who we allow in and out of it. Like
Hmm.
that's, I think that's 99% of our stress is who we allow in and out of our lives outside of health. And we have no control over that. But if you can eliminate people that are causing you stress or anxieties and the amount of time and energy you're wasting on those people, just cut them out of your life like a cancer or put them in a timeout, and you're going to start to feel such a different relief about life. And that time and energy and resources can go towards what do you really want.
Mm. As you were speaking, you reminded me of this book, The Courage to Be Disliked, where they talk about all problems are interpersonal problems, and then it boils down to like specific tasks that are meant to be yours and meant to be others. And so your task is to surround yourself with the right people, the people
Yep.
that are um, in alignment with, again, that goals and expectations and the work that you're going to put in. But which kind of, and I love when when we do this, it comes full circle back to, as much as we don't like it, we must admit that it's not who we know, or not what we know, it is who we know that
Yeah.
influences or dictates the success that we achieve in our lives. And so um, what say you to this part of that? Meeting new people is hard. Surrounding yourself with the right people is difficult. Letting go of people that you've loved for a long time that aren't necessarily healthy people or people that are serving your ultimate goals is also very hard. So when it comes to that, the part of the kind of decision making process and how we're sculpting out our businesses and our lives, what's um, what advice might you have for somebody who is exploring meeting new people and finding it kind of difficult?
I mean, I meet new people every day, but I'm also out there in the world and creating those experiences. The great thing about it, I could meet somebody relatively recently that we just formed an amazing quick bond and friendship, and it's somebody that you feel like you've known forever, and that's an experience that happens quite frequently with me. Um, it's case by case. I don't know who may be listening may have social inabilities and they feel insecure about coming up to people or reaching out to people. Like it's for me, it's very easy to just, hey, I'm Brian. How you doing? What's going on? Like, there's never an ulterior motive to my energy going into a conversation with somebody or into a potential relationship with somebody, whether it's business or a new friendship. So when you're acting like me, I feel the recipient can feel that this is just a genuine conversation. There's no ask. A lot of me is, hey, how can I help you? Here's what I do. Like, what are you working on? What are your passions? I love learning what people want to do and want to be in life, and I also love learning, well, what's holding you back from doing that, and sharing a little bit of my story and saying, hey, I'd love to make an introduction to you if you want to go down that road. Here's a good person that I would suggest you have in your corner. Like that's typically me. And then a friendship is formed, and then a bond is formed. I may never have an ask of that person, which is great. But then maybe one day, 10 years from now, I have an ask, and I reach out to that relationship that I just built, and or I built 10 years ago, and odds are they'll say, "Of course, whatever you need, Brian." Like that's cool. That's my journey. A lot of people can't do that, and but with things like the internet and LinkedIn and social media, it's you take a lot of those friction points away where you can reach out to somebody, but it's how you do it. It's got to be very clever. It's got to be very tactful. You have to build the relationship. You don't want to go right in with an ask. You want to, hey, I really love your posts. I admire what you're working on. Maybe one day we can have a chat and see if there's any synergies. It's very simple. Don't write a novel. I dislike when that comes rolling in. But yeah, it's life's a journey. People have. You also want to look at. I just think you should also take accountability for where you are in life, and you should also maybe even jot it down. Are you evolving? Like, are you
Hmm.
elevating? And I believe, you don't go into a relationship or a friendship with somebody, but I believe relationships may have an expiration date. Like I've learned this a lot, and that doesn't mean a good or a bad thing. You're aligned at some point, and then you go in one direction and they go in another direction. It doesn't mean that it ended in bad blood, but if you're trying to force something or trying to keep something together that's not creating positive outcomes for both of you, then just let it go, right? And then
Hmm.
come back in another time or another future date where you're both aligned, or catch up a little bit. But you don't force things. It doesn't work. If you're trying to squeeze it and keep control of it and make it something, it tends to, it's shouting to you, it's over. we're not aligned right now, or maybe something bad happened. It's over. Like just let it calm down and maybe revisit it in the future.
Yeah, we have this sense of permanence with things. With relationships, I feel like this relationship is going to be permanent. If somebody, let's say you lose a romantic interest, um, am permanently going to be lonely and alone forever. Like that's kind of the default that we go to in those moments, exploring how we're not good enough and this, that, and whatever, and all to no purposeful end. But one of the things I picked up on was you're creating experiences. You're intentionally making efforts to go out and put yourself out into the world, create value, have conversations, meet people, see where you're going to be useful. And it points at one thing. This is a lesson that I learned the hard way when I was facing some of my own kind of mental health challenges when I was younger. Is sometimes the it's like an ancient proverb. Sometimes to help yourself, you must help others. And I think that when you shift your energy focus off of like, oh, everybody's, you walk into a networking event, like everybody's looking at me and they're all judging me and they don't think I'm good enough. And like, what business do you have deciding what people think about you on their behalf? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? So if you're going to spend that energy making stuff up about what people think about you, why not make up good stuff? Like, oh, that guy thinks I'm super handsome, and
that's
that dude thinks I'm super
yeah.
smart, and like, why if we're going to put the energy out there, why are we spending it on uh putting ourselves down versus building
There,
ourselves up so that when we do go out there, we can be in service of others?
yeah, that's really good. I like that psychological spin on it. I think people should do that. It's like when they used to say, if you're going to give a speech, think of everybody naked, right? That was one of the old school tricks to just go up there and talk.
Yeah.
A lot of people I didn't want to picture naked during those conversations. So, but I love that. I'm gonna try that just for fun. I think it's a great tactic.
Yeah, just to see how it is. And then to your point too, it's all about growing on purpose, right? Like finding
Yep.
a thing that you're after, something bigger, higher purpose than yourself. Go out there and do that and act in service of. When you put that focus on other people instead of yourself, it's a freeing experience. It
Yep.
happened for me just after my divorce. I was single and lonely, and I was up in my house for months at a time trying to, build this empire to get back at her, and all, you know how it goes. And one day I was like, I gotta go do something. I can't stay here. So I just took myself out. I went to the bar and I walk in and I sit down at the table and I'm very self-conscious. I order a beer and a basket of fries and I'm sitting there like judging myself hard. Like, look at this old loser in the bar by himself with no friends, no girl, all this stuff. And I'm kind of like just scanning around, looking around the room very reluctantly. And I meet eyes with another person who looked exactly the same way as I did. They were terrified of being in this place, looking around for all the people judging them. And like the light
Yeah.
bulb went on for me. I was like, wait a minute. If other people feel this way, then maybe I don't need to. Maybe I can just come out of this kind of shell
Okay.
and
Yeah.
try to help other people not feel that way. And all of a sudden, I became the life of the party, and people wanted to gather around me. I'm having
Yep.
really incredible conversations because I'm not overthinking it. And so I think that there's something there for people who find that meeting people is difficult. Is like stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about them, and then maybe it'll be a little bit easier. Um,
Yeah.
Brian, this has been an incredible conversation, as it always is with you. I appreciate you being generous with your time and your wisdom here. As we kind of come to a close, I wonder if we can kind of look a little bit into the future. What are you working on? What are some of your goals? What are you excited about?
Uh, Definitely excited about the future of tokenization. The idea of allowing, for the way that I'm looking at it, in DLMI, our public company. How do you legally and within regulatory frameworks allow people from all over the world to buy into a company or buy into a business? So we've been very focused on that's the future. And for me, looking at things like digital wallets, or if you heard of crypto, NFTs, all these buzzwords, we're in the security token lane. These are regulated digital assets, but it's a way or a financial mechanism now where 99% of the world have never had a chance to buy into potentially great companies, great buildings or real estate projects, and a real world asset. They've heard about these things. They never had a chance to even know how to get involved. In the past, if you had a really great brokerage account at Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch, Ameriprise, Charles Schwab, your broker will call you and say, hey, you're a good client. We make a lot of money off of you. We have an IPO coming. Do you want to pick up some IPO shares? Like, that's the 1% of the world that get those chances to be able to buy into something before it goes public and have a liquidity event and make some money. But now with tokenization and people that have a mobile phone and they may live in a hut, but they have an Android device. That's the reality of billions and billions of people around the world. They can actually buy fractional ownership into something, and that's what we're working very heavily on. And the humanity side is, okay, finally there's a way for people to create some kind of wealth for their household, for their family, for themselves, and they don't have to know somebody. You have this open, transparent Web3 digital asset environment where you can just download a wall on your phone and throw a few, fiat currency. You can even attach your credit card. There's ways where you can put money into this digital wallet and go out and buy something. And there's a chance that if you buy the right thing, you can create some sort of wealth for yourself. So that is an amazing time to be alive. It's an amazing moment where technology and things like blockchain all align. So we're excited to be leading on some certain things in that lane. So that's probably the biggest exciting thing that I'm working on, the future of how this works. And, with our model and what we're creating, I think we're creating the model for all public companies going forward. And it's not easy. We're working very hard on that. You need great legal, great accounting, great compliance. And it's first movers are never, it's never an easy task, but, we understand the challenge and excited to be there.
Yeah, how does that saying go? Pioneers always get the bloodiest.
Yeah, very bloody.
It's inspiring though to hear what's motivating you too, and it's not just about creating solutions in a space where people are currently innovating. It's about really looking for ways to serve people and help them build wealth and
Yeah.
security and safety in a very uncertain economic period in our time right now. And so that's incredible. So what sort of challenges do you see yourself facing as you kind of continue down that path, and who or what might you be looking for to help alleviate some of that?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is depending upon the U.S. policies, for example. Like certain leadership is not the friendliest on the landscape there, so we have to look for international awareness for this model. But you know, countries evolve. Unfortunately, the places like Singapore and the Middle East, they really became an authority in this because they knew it was the future, so they quickly adopted it, and now it's a huge piece of their entire what is that called? Their I mean, the earnings. Like, so many people moved to Dubai, for example, because they wanted to be in digital assets, and their government supported it. They put money into it. They're fueling companies' growth. So you saw a lot of great companies and really great entrepreneurs move there over the
Mm.
last 4 years because of that. So it's a little. The U.S. should have been a leader in that, and it's unfortunate that politics got in the way, and you know, certain collapses of other exchanges led to, hey, this is all a big scam. Anything in life or any industry can be a scam. It doesn't have to
Hmm.
be related to crypto, but it's a shame that there were some really big players that because they weren't regulated, there was no there was no protection on those. So those collapsed. A couple of other things collapsed. People got hurt. So then it was just like a hard stop from the U.S. lens, and then some banks failed. So it was like no. So we want to see that evolve. And from what we're doing, we do everything we can within the U.S. Rules and regulations, and then in the moment where that can switch and their tokenization can apply to putting these security tokens out to domestic investors like U.S. citizens, we're going to be right there to share our companies and our work to get their support. But in the meantime, we're building what we can build. But to the other 7.5, 8 billion people around the world that may be interested.
Yeah, it's gonna be a slow burn, as it were. I guess we're just kind of waiting for the old boys club to retire as um, a
Yeah.
way for us
Well,
to move into that.
Jon Stewart, the comedian, had the funniest rant. He was outside. It was probably 3 years ago. It's one of the best rants. He's very big with veterans in the military.
Hmm.
So they were marching in D.C. and he was a mouthpiece supporting, you got to help these veterans, blah blah blah. But he goes on this long hysterical rant. And he goes, but they're tortoises in there. They never die. They live to 200 years old. Best line ever. It was completely the best line ever.
Yeah, we've been constantly investing in growing our medical system to help alleviate the or to push back the inevitable, and it just so happens to only be benefiting the people who have been
They're
in
in
the power.
charge.
Yeah. Wow, man. Yeah, I never thought about it that way. That's hilarious. Listen, Brian, this has been wonderful. Again, I'm very grateful for your time and your wisdom today. As we wrap up, if we could, I'd love to give you the last word here. Um, Imagine somebody's out there who's up to it, who's trying to create something for themselves and facing some challenges and struggles. As a final word, what sort of advice might you offer them to keep pushing forward?
Yeah, the beautiful thing about life is any minute in a day, as long as you're out there pushing and creating and trying to succeed, it could change, right? You could get one text, email, one phone call that could just change your entire life. So you gotta believe that because it is true, and it may take you a while to get there, but as long as you're out there and you're figuring it out. And at the end of the day, if you have your health, it's truly your wealth. All this other stuff is just a lot of noise. I know it could be scary you're going to get evicted from your apartment, 2 months late on your utility bill. Like these are all realities for a lot of people, but you're not alone. Like you mentioned your experience going to a bar, eating a basket of fries. Like there were other people in there in their own um, wallowing, for lack of a better word.
Hmm.
So as long as you know that you're not alone, I think you should always be transparent and communicate with people. Don't go in hiding. Like if things are tough, tell people things are tough. Everybody wants to feel like they're invincible or they're the best thing since sliced bread, but that's not that's not cool. Like people love vulnerability. I love telling my story. It sucked. It was awful. I wasn't embarrassed by it. That was the hand I got dealt, but I took responsibility of it and accountability of it. And I said, why am I in this position? What do I need to stop replicating? What do I need to do differently? And how do I get out of this situation? It's kind of pretty simple. And honestly, too, if it's really bad, that's great because it can only go up from there. Like imagine having everything and losing it and not being equipped to know how to come back, and that's a lot of people. So if it sucks, great. It can't get much worse. So look at that as a like in your you were saying the psychological flip. Like it can only get better from here, and I'm gonna figure out how it's gonna get better from here.
Yeah, really powerful. That idea of hard work and opportunity. When both of those are working in tandem, luck happens and you achieve things. But if you're not doing anything and you're just sitting there and there's no momentum, then the guarantee is that nothing is going to happen. So I love that that's the parting words. Brian, if somebody wanted to reach out to you to pick your brain further or perhaps work with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can search me, Brian J Esposito, LinkedIn, X, Instagram, TikTok, corporate websites, EIE.rocks, and then the public companies, diamondlakeminerals.com. And Devin, as you know, I get back to everybody that reaches out to me.
Yes, he does. He's very good at responding. Brian, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. We'll make sure to link to all your stuff in the show notes so anybody watching or listening can find you easily. On that note, if you wanted to reach out to me and my team for any of your marketing or AI needs, you can visit nextgengrowth.com. Otherwise, that's it for this episode. Thanks for joining us for this incredible conversation, and I will see you in the next.